Diversity of opinion is the essence and lifeblood of football fandom. It is what stops me, a Newcastle fan, from supporting our neighbours down the road, Sunderland. Recently, with a growing editorial focus placed on the current rot developing within Newcastle United's executive chambers, fans have been watching on closely as a number of pundits have offered their 2 cents on Mike Ashley and his running of the club. Of note, Dennis Wise, Andy Gray and Ian Abrahams have delivered their verdicts on the unpopular owner and what they make out to be the hive of pessimism that is the Northeast. Speaking firstly on beIN Sports' build-up to Newcastle's game at Cardiff last Saturday, and then again on Sky Sports throughout last week, Wise stated that Newcastle were in a far better position now, both as a business and a football team, than they were when Ashley took over in 2007. While an unsavory point of view to many of the Toon faithful, the opinion is well worn in some quarters. Crucially, however, Wise, who endured a short-lived stint as executive director under Mike Ashley in 2008, struggled to articulate with any conviction a rationale for such a contentious claim. Thereafter, a series of cheap shots and misinformed stats were fired at Newcastle fans, and lapped up by fawning hosts, Richard Keys and Andy Gray. Subsequent invitations for Wise to speak with fans about his comments from the likes of the Magpie Group (TMG), a pressure group recently formed for the sole purpose of raising awareness of the grievances felt by many Newcastle fans, have been left unanswered. As has their open letter to Ashley himself, which sought to clarify some of the statements made in his correspondence with the Secretary of State for Digital, Culture, Media and Sport. Enough is enough, a Newcastle fan looks away in disgust. Getty Images. Born out of a kindred sense of injustice, the Magpie Group bears similarities to the spirit of Shankly, a union of Liverpool supporters who in 2008 succeeded in channeling a toxic brew of fan discontent into a vibrant, coordinated, and professional fan-led movement that was integral in eventually helping to force the hand of outgoing owners Tom Hicks and George Gillett. Before yesterday's 2-1 loss to Chelsea, TMG led a march outside a Newcastle branch of Sports Direct, protesting in loud voice against Ashley's ownership of the club. A few hundred battled the rain and joined the march. Speaking about the project, Wallace Wilson, chair of the Magpie Group, said, "Newcastle United fans are a resilient bunch. We have had to put up with a lot under Mike Ashley's disastrous ownership, but enough is enough. Time and again, Ashley has abused his position as owner of the club and we are here to call it out. He is not fit to be the custodian of Newcastle United and we will do all we can to fight for our club and community." Likewise, managing director Lee Charnley and Justin Barnes, Ashley's fixer, as some describe him, have remained anonymous, and have repeatedly shunned accountability, or even a discussion, with fan forums about the running of the club. It has taken esteemed and well-respected Northeast correspondents George Calkin, The Times, and Luke Edwards, The Daily Telegraph, to correct the flawed, wide-of-the-post remarks from the likes of Abrahams, or the Moose, as he likes to call himself. After all, why should truth jet in the way of a good old Geordie bash? Scrooge-like ownership. Newcastle manager Rafa Benitez has been forced to work with limited resources, Getty Images, while Newcastle's shortcomings in the transfer market are well documented. That, for example, the club's transfer record has stood for 13 long years, or that the average annual net spend on players stands at £2.6 million since Ashley's takeover. Anger is not reserved exclusively for the owner's Scrooge-like contempt of the transfer window. From shamelessly attempting to rename the stadium to what better resembled a web address in 2009, to failing to follow through on promises about renovating severely outdated training and academy facilities, Ashley's faults are numerous. Our decline under his tenure is evidenced by our Premier League finishes, 2 relegations, 3 relegation scraps and just 2 top-half finishes for a club that had finished in the top 5 3 times in the 6 seasons before he took over. While Ashley's deafening silence rumbles on, the squeaking voices of Wise, Keys et al. Will continue to punctuate the one-sided and unchallenged apologism that seems too often to dominate our screens come Saturday. not the man to take the club forward. Protests against Ashley have been going on intermittently for years. Getty Images. As Rafa Benitez enters the final year of his contract, Premier League survival will once again be the subject of our focus. Even if that is secured, few fans will blame Benitez if he chooses to part company with the club come May, but if he were to depart, it would be more serious than Kevin Keegan's constructive dismissal in 2008, and up there in terms of utter scandal with releasing cancer-recovering club servant Jonas Gutierrez over the phone. The Newcastle faithful will remain ever hopeful of a break in the clouds that have engulfed St James's Park, the cathedral on top of the hill, over the past 11 years. In the meantime, they will remain undeterred in their passionate and unrelenting support of the players and the manager who give their all, regardless of circumstances. As for the owner, the message is loud and clear. As Wilson of TMG says, Mike Ashley has already admitted he is not the man to take the club forward. Protest action will not cease and will likely escalate until Mike Ashley sells Newcastle United to a fit-for-purpose buyer. Harry Saville, at Hodgsville, is editor of The Spectator's View, at The Spectoview, a Newcastle United fanzine. More on Newcastle United.